Not all that glitters is gold. That is the theme of this period in history that we're entering, known as the Gilded Age. This is a time period after the Civil War. This is after Reconstruction has ended. It's not that we completed Reconstruction. We have not put the country back together again after the Civil War. We haven't solved a lot of the issues that we needed to solve in Reconstruction. However, we're moving on. And that's the Gilded Age. There are still some lingering problems from the Civil War and from the 19th century that we needed to solve and we didn't. And that's what's going to lead to this time period of immense wealth and growth and economic opportunity. But underneath, there's also a lot of hardship and poverty and income inequality. The word gilded is a word that means where there's gold on the outside, right? But that doesn't mean there's gold all the way through. The Gilded Age is a time of enormous prosperity where the country is plated in gold. There's a lot of wealth going on. The people at the highest points of society are making more money than ever they thought possible. Now there are going to be some of that, there's going to be some of that spreading to the middle class and lower class, but for the most part, the gap between wealthy and poor is going to grow during the Gilded Age. Now, the major change happening during the Gilded Age is industrialization. This is the shift from handmade goods to machine-made goods, from people mostly working in the agricultural setting on farms to people working in factories and living in cities. We've kind of talked about this a little bit. Now we're really going to dive deep on what we call the kind of the second industrial revolution. This time period from 1877 to 1900 and beyond, where the United States drastically changes. There we go. So by 1900, the United States is going to be the leading industrial power in the world. Up until this point, it's been Victorian the British Empire, Germany, and France. Those have been the leaders in the industrial world producing the world's products. But the United States is going to take over in 1900, and they're going to be the #1 industrial power in the world. So what we're going to look at here are the causes of American industrialization. What is making it possible for the United States to grow so fast, for them to produce so much and send all these products around the world? What are the factors that make American industrialization possible? All right, and what I want you to do while you're watching this video is to create a cause and effect map. It's a multi-flow map where you have in the middle American industrialization, and then on the left you are recording the causes or the factors making it possible. And on the right, a little bit later when you look at a different slideshow, you're going to record what were the effects of American industrialization. So you should be doing this cause and effect map while you watch this video and while you look at the slideshow afterwards. If you need to stop the video to create it, go ahead and do that. All right, so what factors made the United States the leading industrial power in the world? #1, availability of raw materials. The United States has a ton of land, and with a lot of land comes a lot of diverse resources and raw materials like coal and iron and copper and lead and timber and oil. And these are all products that you need if you're going to industrialize, if you're going to build factories, if you're going to power those factories and those machines with energy. You need coal, iron, copper, lead, timber, oil, among other things. So the availability of raw materials for building machines and running those machines was essential, and we had them. #2, a labor supply. You need people to work. Well, what's happening after the Civil War? A population boom. In 1850, there are 23 million Americans. That's the population of the United States. By the year 1900, that population has quadrupled to 76 million. And that's not quadrupled, that's tripled. Sorry. And then by 1920, it's gone all the way to 120 million people. So our population is booming, and part of that is because of the arrival of immigrants. There are millions of immigrants coming into the United States seeking economic opportunity, and that's going to fill the jobs in the factories. Third, A growing transportation network. So we're building railroads and canals and brand new roads all over the country during this time period. And bigger businesses is going to lead to more coordinated, efficient movement of goods. So we've got these trains to haul all these resources that we're creating in the factories, and that's going to lead to more industrialization. Fourth, capital investment from wealthy Americans and foreign sources. It's not free to start a business or to start a factory. You have to have money. And so what people are doing is wealthy Americans and foreign investors, especially from Britain, are putting money into American businesses and into American factories and helping those companies grow, whether it's Standard Oil or Carnegie's Steel Company, whatever it is, they're using money that people are investing to grow their company. And then what happens when the company grows? Well, that investor's share of the company also grows. That's what the stock market is, right? You buy a piece of a company and that company grows. And it's kind of a symbiotic relationship. Fifth, new technology increases efficiency of production. Now I'm going to just talk about two of the main ones here, but there are lots of different patents and inventions happening in this time period. But two of the most important ones. First, the Bessemer steel process, a process for mass producing steel at a fast, efficient, and cheaper rate. That's going to be really important as we're building these thousands of miles of railroad lines. We need steel. And so the steel companies are going to use this new innovative process to mass produce steel. And then second, harnessing electricity. Electricity is not something we invent, it's something that we discover and then harness, right? And so we've discovered how to harness it and light up factories and light up our homes so that we can work when it's dark, which means longer work hours in factories, but that's also going to lead to more production. So number 6, little to no business regulation. So these businesses are pretty much allowed to do whatever they want to prosper. The government is taking a really hands-off approach, or what's called it's an old phrase by an economist called laissez-faire. Basically, let them do. Let the businesses do their thing. They will become wealthy, they will hire more people, and it will kind of benefit the entire society. Now the downside of that is when there is no regulation, you end up with really poor working conditions. And so people working in coal mines and in factories are going to get diseases, and they're going to lose arms in the machines because there's no regulation. There's also no regulation about who can work. So you're going to see child labor and long hours become a real problem. So while this allows industrialization to explode, to prosper, there's also a downside to it. And so this can't be understated. Talented entrepreneurs with strong personalities. You needed people to stand up and do the impossible and have these forceful personalities to start these businesses and have a dream and make that dream happen. And we had those in the Gilded Age. We had guys like John D. Rockefeller, who's going to be the pioneer in the oil industry. Andrew Carnegie, who's going to make most of his money in the steel industry. Cornelius Vanderbilt, who consolidates and creates this huge monopoly with the railroads. And then J.P. Morgan, who was a financier, who's going to be a really powerful personality during this time. So these guys are kind of the spearheads behind all these industrial businesses. We'll talk more about these guys later. So that's what's happening in the United States. Those are kind of the factors causing American industrialization. The landscape is changing. Instead of fields with farms, you see more smokestacks and factories and railroad lines. You see more bridges, and the country just looks more industrial. That's what industrialization means. Now, we did talk about there is a downside. There are thousands of people whose lives are not improving. Right? They're working in worse conditions, but they're doing it because it provides a steady wage. They're able to earn money by the hour and provide for their families. So it's a difficult thing to weigh up. Like we said, there are these big businesses forming, and one of the main ones is the railroad business. And we're going to see thousands of lines of railroads being laid across the country, including a couple transcontinental railroads, where we see railroads going from the, let me get my little laser pointer, from the Atlantic coast all the way across the country to the Pacific coast. And there's going to be another one down here in the south and another couple up here in the north. And that's going to connect the country together. It's going to connect the East Coast to the West Coast, which means more people can move into these areas now that they're connected by railroads. And we'll talk about this more next week, but this transcontinental railroad is a huge moment in this industrial age, in the Gilded Age. When we connect the East Coast to the West Coast, this place called Promen Point, it really changes the country. This is the thousands of miles of railroad lines laid by the year 1890. Now, what that also causes is, so one of the effects of industrialization that you can put on your cause and effect map, one of the effects is that the price of goods gets cheaper. Because we can produce things faster and more efficiently, we can charge less for them because we have more of that product. It's just the laws of supply and demand. And so the cost of living goes down. The cost of food and the cost of products goes down. And so that's a positive. It can be. But I want you to also look at some of the other effects of the Gilded Age in the slideshow that I provided on Canvas, and continue to add to your thinking map. So we see here the Gilded Age is a time of economic prosperity, but also some real desperation in some of the poorer areas of society.